Hey everybody, this is John from MTG Nexus, trying out our Boros Burn splashing green build that I put in the latest sideboarding guide on the 15th. Some people have been requesting we get back to working on the green splash after doing several straight Boros videos. As a friendly reminder, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, giving us a thumbs up, leaving a constructive comment down below. It's been a fairly busy weekend, so ironically I did the recordings for the standard videos on Wednesday and the Phoenix videos on Friday, but I haven't gotten around to doing the burn video that's supposed to come out at 10 a.m. this morning. So here we are, going to get through a league here. The main thing with this version we're trying out is 3 copies of Sunbaked Canyon in a green splash, no copies of Inspiring Vantage. We have the one of Stomping Ground for Cindervines on the sideboard. This is partially a concession because I've cut Exquisite Firecraft in this build to have room for 5 Graveyard Heat pieces with a Gok Bridgevine out there, as well as Dredge. Also, Grafdigger's Cage is a concession to the Neoform decks that'll be popping up probably once the London Mulligan roll kind of gets put back into place here in about a week or so. A couple copies of Skullcrack still for life gain and such, Searing Bloods and Path to Exiles for the creature decks. The one things we are severely lacking is if Cindervines or Graveyard Heat doesn't come in against a particular matchup, then there might be some non-creature matchups where we're lacking enough things for Searing Blaze. Like, for the most part, when I'm cutting Searing Blazes, I'm bringing in, Skullcracks and Pass, or Cindervines and Skullcracks, depending on the matchup. So that's one thing to keep an eye on for, is does the removal of Exquisite Firecraft in this particular build give it issues in terms of whether or not we have proper sideboard slots for each particular matchup. So it'll be something to keep an eye on as we go through this league. So, had a busy weekend, played in a local qualifier for local shops. IQ, they're running at the end of the year, ICG store here in western Pennsylvania, which is right across the border from me. I will admit I did cross to the dark side and played Izzet Phoenix. Reason I didn't go with Burn is, number one, I didn't own Sunbaked Canyons in paper yet, which that got fixed yesterday. And number two, several of our local players, when they see me show up, automatically presume I'm on Burn, and therefore will add like an extra timely reinforcements or whatever to their deck to make it a little bit more difficult. Ironically, Phoenix was better for the Swiss portion of the tournament in terms of the matchups I faced, but Burn would have been better in the top 8, because the top 8 ended up being like Dimir Fey, a couple blue-white control decks, like black-green Infect, Devoted Druid combo, Tron. Like, Burn likely would have steamrolled the top 8. Unfortunately, as the Phoenix was pretty poorly positioned in the top 8 itself, I ended up losing in the quarterfinals to Dimir Fey. But not a deck you see a lot of, but it was in the hands of one of the better pilots in the area. So this hand's pretty good. We're on the play. We've got, turn 1 Goblin Guide, turn 2 bunch of plays, so this hand's a pretty easy keep. Once again, the London Mulligan rule not quite in place on Magic Online yet. Magic Online. So gotta be careful, because the other day Magic Online was giving me some fits. So Thing in the Ice, Phoenix probably. Yep, Fearless Looting. So are they just digging, or are they setting up for a Phoenix turn? Oh, they're trying to set up for a Phoenix turn. So ironically, in the first round of the Swiss yesterday, I was on Phoenix, obviously, and I got paired against a 4-color burn list right out of the bat. I ended up losing, or game 1 I won because I got stuck on 1 land, which sometimes, as burn players we do that. Game 2, they were just able to run me down. And then in game 3, basically, the game state ended with, he had 4 Eidolons and 1 Goblin Guide in play, and I had 2 unflipped things in the ice. So, alright, so they're going to get a big Phoenix turn here. So what they're going to require them to flash back with Lava Dart. Sure. So they're taking a bunch of damage here to get some Phoenixes in play. But if we draw a land, they're just dead next turn. But we did lose some amount of our lands. So they just left themselves dead on board. Okay. I'm gonna say they just left themselves dead on board to known information. So Phoenix, bring the 2 Cindervines in. Bring 2 Paths in. Searing Blaze. So the Cindervines obviously tax their spells. The version I was playing, which is one of the newer versions of Phoenix, is also playing Aria of Flame, which gets boarded out in the burn matchup, but is something if the pilot leaves Aria of Flame in or has Pyromancer's Ascension. There's a couple different artifacts or enchantments for Cindervines to hit in this matchup. Searing Blaze, I don't know. This is the card that we're gonna have to take the most look at in these kind of matchups, because they only kill Phoenix. Like, they don't on their own kill Thing in the Ice. This hand's fine. We got an answer to a fast Thing in the Ice flip and a bunch of other stuff. This matchup's gotten a little bit closer with the addition of Force of Negation in some of the sideboards. So, I still think Burn's pretty well favored in most draws, but certainly need to apply a lot of pressure. 1 card on top, 1 card on bottom. We'll see if they left a land on top. Of course they did. Notably, it being Spire Bluff Canals, they're not taking damage from their lands. Okay, looks like they're trying for the Phoenix plan. Wouldn't be surprised if there's a bolt to follow up here. I don't have quite enough for Magmatic Explosion, so it has to be a bolt. There's another bolt on top, so these Goblin Guys probably aren't long for this world. Oh, they didn't have a bolt. So am I supposed to set up for Cindervines or just keep my life total high? I hate taking the extra damage, especially in what's essentially amounts to a racing matchup, but they're kind of sputtering and doing the thing, so. Wow. So, the does leave us without a target for Searing Blaze. And they can certainly chain off a lot of spells next turn. So I can put them to 10, put them to 7, put them to 5. I don't think this is a matchup you're supposed to leave Aria of Flame in, but certainly could kill us this turn. JK. So it's 6 points of burn. Have force negation here. Yep, this feels like a... Alright, and that was just kind of a concession there. So Cindervines will lock that up. Honestly surprised they left that in, but Aria Flame is still in the early testing phase of the deck, so this is kind of an enchantment they use to sidestep Graveyard Hate. Makes the answers to things like Pyromancer's Ascension and stuff look pretty silly, and it's not uncommon for the Phoenix deck to chain 6 to 10 spells over a couple of turns, even from a low spell count. So, but Burn is and continues to remain probably one of the few matchups Izzet Phoenix has to go out of its way a lot to fix. So one of the rougher matchups for them. Cindervines would have come into play here, but you know, fast start, so we were able to kill them on turn 4 through a little bit of disruption, I guess. They would have had Lightning Bolt here, but no, once again, one-drop creature is pretty key to beating up on some of these other fair decks. If they can't interact with your creatures, they just die. So, just been John for MTG Nexus. We'll be back soon with match number 2. Here we are, back from getting ready for match number 2. As a friendly reminder, if you want to like to support the channel and we give you some added value, please check out our Patreon page, where every 2 weeks I post a new sideboard guide if you're a $1 Patreon or more. This hand's obviously a pretty easy mulligan with no lands. This hand isn't great. So, some type of Tron deck. So one of the incentives of fetching basic mountain on the first land used to be you could draw Inspiring Vantage to not take damage from your lands. But with Inspiring Vantage really no longer in this build, I'm about to get chaliced on one, aren't I? Alright, Tron it is. Gonna be a real kick in the butt if he kept 7 and had Natural Tron plus Chalice on 2. Okay. Walking Ballista on 1, sure. Whatever. Love that art, though. Probably get hit by a TKS next turn. So, as I mentioned in the sideboarding guide and back when Tron was more of a thing, Tron is one of Burns' more difficult fair matchups. So, there's TKS. Last turn. Yeah, that makes it really difficult. Would have loved to have drawn a Boros Charm there, so we can put them to 3. Now we very specifically have to draw drawing way too many lands. Alright, so bring in Cindervines to try to counteract Chalice as best we can. Path to deal with their big idiots. First cuts are the Searing Blazes. They don't really have a ton of targets that are relevant. Eidolons, another card that can easily come out. Grim Lavamancer. But our 1-drops tend to sit on the board, and ones that can continue to pick away at our opponent's life total if we get it down before they get a If we get it down before they get a chalice down, continue to kind of plunk away at their life total over a couple of turns, and like we can usually get them fairly low, but if they can lock us out with chalices or kill us really quickly with reality smashers, does make things like, see, like this is the kind of hand that unless they have chalice on one on turn one, we're gonna at least get to deploy these two. And then Path obviously is pretty good against their first big idiot usually. So, and having multiple fetch lands, which is one of the underrated things that one of the problems Etron does have though is that it's a bit inconsistent. Okay, JK. See if they have a chalice here. No chalice. That's good for us. That was dumb. I didn't leave up white mana for TKS. Yeah, I should have fetched for a mountain or a stomping ground and left a Path to Exile up for Thought-Knots here. Now they have the choice of do they take the burn spell or do they take the Path to Exile. They gotta take the Path, I'm presuming here. There's a play mistake on my part that might end up costing us this game. So we have 8 damage this turn cycle. Drop you to 5. Sure. Cinder Vines, bit awkward, but play it anyway. So that's 5 mana, that's probably Reality Smasher. So we have 2 turns to draw. Nope, 1 turn to draw a spell. And we happen to have drawn Bolt. Got a little bit lucky that my Path faux pas didn't come back to bite us that game. Alright, so once again, keep an eye on Grim was pretty solid there, so I can't complain there. Eidolon, even on the draw, is pretty terrible. Would I rather have Skullcrack in case they have Basilisk color. Maybe. Yeah, whatever. Opponent has no idea. This hand's decent, but we are lacking white mana, and we're really vulnerable to Chalice on one, but I still think we keep it. Chalice. Yep. Pretty close to my whole hand's dead here, so. I mean, we'll continue playing it out, but this game's pretty well over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I say, because we need green source plus cinder vines to get out of this mess, so. Not getting anything relevant here. So you're saying there's a chance. Of course, if they go Reality Smasher here, it's not going to matter. Ooh, yeah. Another Chalice. Another Chalice would really suck. One, two, three. So would we be dead next turn? 1, 2, 3, 4. Pump that to 3. It hits for 6 total, down to 3. I don't think we'd be dead, so I'm going to spike them, So in order to play Get Tron, they'd have to use these lands. They'd have 7 mana left over. Should be enough to pump Ballista once. So Reality Smasher, 5. It's 9, 10, 11. So Reality Smasher is basically the card we want to dodge here. Oh, delightful. So 4. So 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't think that changes the math, does it? Let that happen, because that's 6 damage total. Even if they pump it again, it's whatever. So 8. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the more insane games I've ever played with Burn. So, but, you know, it's one of the keys to playing a deck for a really long time is to play the deck enough where you know the outs and can play to them. And killing that Thought-Knot Seer there, even though it basically 2 for 2'd us. You know, Goblin Guy plus the burn spell, because we had to draw the out of both the green source and the Cinder Vines. So the more cards we see, the better chance we had of that. So managed to hit it and unlocked our hand and killed them. So yeah, but basically I was doing the math there because a Reality Smasher would have changed the math dramatically. So that's why I held up the bolt to be able to interact with Walking Ballista. So anywho, this has been John from MTG Nexus with match number 2. Back for match number 3. This hand's interesting. This hand feels like it might be a tad too slow given whatever matchup, but Godless Shrine usually indicates a slower matchup, so we'll have time to probably deploy our hand. Whether it gets picked apart or not is another ball game. I have no idea what's going on here. We are in the 2-0 bracket, right? MTG. Safe. Who is banging out lists with 5-color Niv? Looks like we might be up against 5-color Niv. Yep, looks like 5-color Niv. Interesting one. So the one concern I had with this hand is whether it would have enough damage. What an interesting pile of cards. Now they look really silly. I understand wanting to prevent damage, but sure. Do they actually have the namesake card? Looks like they're casting and Bring the Light to hit it. Sure. One way to stay alive for a turn, I guess. Pass turn. I say these decks can literally play anything, so Lord only knows. This deck is definitely functional, I guess. That's a little rough. So I got back Bloodbraid Elf. This deck's got a ton of value. Okay. Sure. Alright, well, they won game one. I mean, to get them to 3 at one point, so... What an eclectic mix of cards. so Cindervines makes some amount of sense against what they're doing, as does Skullcrack. And Searing Blood has some targets, depending on... Like they're running safe right quests. That particular version was also running All Sun's Dawn and the name of the enchantment they were doing. Trace of Abundance, which is basically abundant growth for 1 more mana. Man, what a weird build. Alright, so Lavamancer can probably come out. A couple Searing Blazes. And Eidolon. Like their build's all over the place, man. This is a hand that if we hit a second land, specifically a white source, can be very, very good. Land, please. I mean, it'll do. Ish. We were really hoping they'd Assassin's Trophy us there. Pass turn. Hopefully they don't have Kaya's Guile. Sure, I use my white source wisely here, because they could just be playing on trying to LD me into the ground here. Interesting plan. Probably should have done it a turn earlier, but whatevs. Hopefully they don't have Kaya's Guile here. Could have Lightning Helix here, which would be annoying. Izzet Charm? Sure. Them to 2. Bring the light to 1, going to 6, or going to 5, I guess. Come on, deck, give me a land next turn. That is not a land. Why they exile all the cards from my graveyard? Whatever. Sure. What a weird, weird game. So mindful of playing around Searing Blaze. I haven't even seen a Birds of Paradise out of them. Sounds pretty solid. Painful, but solid. Oh, birdie. Finally play the birdie game. Game 2, huh? Game 3. Yep, that's a thing. I have to give this 5-color Niz-Mizzet deck a try. Always felt like it was cute, but I suppose in some ways it makes sense. Wow. Okay. All the random stuff. Gonna say, we don't have the ability to play the grind game, so... Put you to 7. could potentially kill us this turn. They have Bloodbraid into Lightning Bolt or Helix or something. Bring to Light. Apparently they're just going for the I'm not gonna die plan. Do you have another land? Alright, so we lose to 5 Color Niz-Mizzet, because, what an interesting pile of cards. Bloodbraid Elves, Niz-Mizzet Reborns, Assassin's Trophies, Connor Squalls, Aldemari's Calls. Let's see what kind of different things were people playing. Unmoored Egos, Lightning Helixes. This particular list we were playing against was playing Kaya's Guile. Yeah, what a interesting mix of cards. This has been John for MTG Nexus with match number 3. Hey, we're back for match number 4 in this league. So, I've had an interesting league so far. This hand's pretty good. Definitely kind of hand you want on the play. Fetch. Could get away with fetching Basic Mountain here. But I think we're just going to lead on Sacred Foundry. And then next turn, the sequencing is kind of important, but a lot of it depends on if we think our Swiftspear is going to live or not. So, Burn Mirror, possibly? They just bolt the Swiftspear. So, given the fact our Swiftspear is unlikely to live, we go for the max damage plan here. With the opener our opponents had, it's most likely going to be on Riftbolt into Eidolon plan. Going at my face. Alright. Lightning Helix then? Or Searing Blaze? Sure. Could have gone just Boros Charm into Boros Charm, but this most punishes our opponent for playing anything. We're slightly ahead in the life total race, so another Searing Blaze. a very good chance I die next turn. Because I got too cute here. Should have just gone Boros Charm into Boros Charm. Yep, I got too cute. Should have just gone Boros Charm into Boros Charm. That would have ended the game. Foolishness on my part. Searing Bloods. Board out these. Board out the Lavamancer. Board out one Skewer the Critics. Bring in Path to deal with potential core Firewalkers. Bring in Skullcrack to help deal with any type of life gain, including Lightning Helix. Searing Bloods are pretty reasonable against creatures. Yeah, we should be up a game right now. But can't dwell on that, so this hand's a little bit painful. Let's fetch a basic mountain here because we do have our white source. Albeit a painful one, but alright. Cindervines? Okay. Interesting card to bring in the mirror. Sure, go to 4. So that's going to look really awkward if I miss here. Cindervines. Don't think that's worth it. Like, I respect the size of my opponent's cojones, but I just don't think it's worth it. Still even path, although I think it's extremely unlikely they have core Firewalker at this point. I think we keep this hand. This is kind of an attrition-y hand, but sure. Hit with a Swift Spear. Play out this, plan on bolting the Swift Spear. And if they happen to play a follow-up Eidolon, then we get to kill that one too. Which is probably the play they're trying to set up here. Fortunately for them, this exchange feels a little less worse when I'm gaining life off of it. It probably has another land and a searing effect this turn. Yep. Require 3 mana. Is this a Cindervines? No. Alright. I mean, hard cast Riftbolt? Sure. The heck is your hand then, friend? Lots of lands. Okay. Sure. And the game has ended. So, even if your opponent plays in a really bizarre way, doesn't seem to indicate they have Core Firewalker in their deck, and they're bringing in Cindervines in the mirror match, still don't board out Path to Exile for game 3. Just always have the answer to Core Firewalker, though I don't think it mattered there, unless they had like another bolt or something themselves. But, as always, don't get too cute, just go with the obvious lines. I should have just gone Boros Charm, Boros Charm. The only thing that kind of blows that up would have been a Lightning Helix, but, you know, we've exposed ourselves to Searing Blaze when we didn't have to. So, this has been a really, really weird league. So, this has been John for MTG Nexus with that. So, I don't even remember what episode, match number 4 in this league. So we're back for our 5th and final match in this league. Hand's pretty good. To me, good burn hands usually involve a... And I sound like a broken record on this one. Always involve Goblin God. One of the nice things about this hand is, even though it has 3 lands, one of them is a Sunbaked Canyon, so that's a nice little bonus too. On that, since Inquisition of Kozilek. Well, this could be a little rough. Probably have to take Boros Charm here. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what they say is gas. Alright, so rock. Going to do this because one of rock's game plans against us is to LD us into the ground, keep us off of our white sources. So unfortunately, a Tarmogoyf does kind of stop our offense cold. Collective Brutality would be kind of heinous here. So, the rock. The rock says. It's possible they're Jund? I think Jund plays too many Assassin's trophies, though. Alright, going to 4. Okay, so it is Jund. Alright. Fair enough, fair enough. This feels like a K command setup to me. No reason to deploy anything right now. If they play a creature, they're dead. Sure. At this point, Collective Brutality won't save them from any spells. Skoos has 2 targets? Yeah, 2 targets. And Helix for the win. Now that we know we're up against Junday, our particular opponent has had a recent finish. Does not look like it. Doesn't mean they don't have a 5-0, it just means they haven't had a recent finish. So boarding. Has the rock not been doing that well lately? It's like not on the sideboard guide I've made yet. Must not be far enough up on the list yet. So, though I do tend to board similar to them as I do against GDS, so kind of use that as a baseline. Alvamancer out. Skewer maybe. Definitely want the Skull Cracks. Cage doesn't make sense. Blood doesn't make sense. Blaze kills some of their creatures, but like... Alright, so the Jund typical thing is Confidants, which probably still won't be in the deck, Skews, Tarmogoyf, Seasoned Pyromancer. Alright, so I'll leave in a couple Searing Blazes, or one Searing Blaze here. Board out one Eidolon, board in a second Blaze. This is kind of an experimental thing, because Jund's been undergoing some changes lately, so not exactly sure how to sideboard against them anymore. Can't really mulligan this hand. It's not great in the matchup, but they have discard spells, so going down on resources is never a good idea against Jund. And then even if we have a 1-drop, something like a Fatal Push or a Lightning Bolt blows it up anyway. So this is one of the few matchups where it's not about always the turn 1 creatures. Especially when they have likely some number of collective brutalities after sideboard. No turn 1 discard, that's positive, I guess. We draw the turn 1 creature anyway. See if they have a Fatal Push for it. Doesn't look like they have the Fatal Push. Alright. Or they want to fetch a dual land and don't want to take the damage from it. Or they have a Collective Brutality and this whole thing is just going to get blown to smithereens here. Nope. Just very slow land. So I could do the double spell thing here. I'm just going to play this, see if I can bait out a Fatal Push. This way, even if they have Liliana on 3, they're taking 2 damage to do it. So Bolt plus Skewer wouldn't have maximized our damage anyway. Tarmogoyf. Yep. Say Path would have been nice here. Let's get these resources out of my hand. I'm gonna guess you don't want to cast that one. Shocker. I don't think they have lethal here. That's 7. Eight. Alright, so game's over. Cool. So that's 4. GG. Alright, finally got a 4-1 in all this mess. Woo! Been a while since we've had one of these qualifier points for the mocks. A couple modern format points, some nice play points. So this felt pretty good. One hiccup was that 5-color Niz-Mizzet deck, man. Deck is something else. So I like this list so far where it's at. Obviously the mana base is a little painful at spots, but Sunbaked Canyon came up clutch a couple of times. Cindervines was decent in the spots we needed it to be, though it could easily have been Smash or D-Rev in that spot. But I think having this to round out the sideboard plan against blue-white control is nice, to be able to board out these 4 Searing Blazes. So you always need to consider your sideboard and deck as a 75 unit as a whole, what goes in and out. That's why, as maligned as sideboarding guides are, even creating your own sideboard guide for your own list can help you kind of, trim your main deck to fit your sideboard, or trim your sideboard to fit your main deck, even if you think you want more. Like, say you want 8 cards for a particular, say you want 8 cards for Hogak or something. Does your deck support having 8 sideboard slots for a deck? Do you have 8 cards to bring in 8 cards? So, something to consider as you're building your lists, be it burn, be it whatever deck, is to learn to construct your 75 as a unit. So, anyways, this has been John from MTG Nexus. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And come back to the main channel on Friday. For this week, it'll be some Izzet Phoenix. I did some playthroughs and prep for this past weekend's event. So there will be like 10 matches on there. And then on Wednesday, check out our other channel, Standard Nexus MTG. I have some mono white aggro splashing experimental frenzy video going up on Wednesday. And don't forget to come back on next Monday for our next burn video. Next burn video, I will try to get a couple of leagues up. This time was running a little bit late because of all the things I wanted to get done this weekend. So I want to thank everybody for the support and the channel growth. So thanks for hanging out. This has been John from MTG Nexus. Have a great day.